I'm Dr. Robert Kitchen, Member of Parliament for Souris Moose Mountain in Saskatchewan, and the political party I am part of the Conservative Party of Canada. Well, I ran for political office because of a number of different things. Most importantly, I've traveled all over the world. I was born in England. I lived in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran when I was younger, and I learned an awful lot about the world. And to me, it was always federal politics that was of interest to me. And so, with that said, I thought my dad raised me to get out there and become part of Canada, and this was my way of giving back to the country. Well, my proudest accomplishment is actually being elected and actually having the highest percentage of vote in the last federal election in all of Canada, all 338 ridings. That's been a huge accomplishment. But actually, the very first time I got elected was probably the most important part for me. It was actually recognizing that I had the support of my constituents, and because my riding, as I've indicated, is so big, 43,000 square kilometers, it's a huge area to get around in. And when you get that sort of percentage of support, that's great to know. Well, what motivates me to get out there is to get up and see each day that I can put my best foot forward and try and speak on behalf of my constituents wherever I can, whether it's here in Ottawa or when I'm back in the riding, getting out in the riding and talking to them. And just finding out that, to me, is the most important thing, is hearing from them. It's a big challenge. And with COVID and with everything being shut down as much as it was, that was a huge challenge to try and deal with that, because I am a people person. I like to get out and talk to people, and it was a challenge during that 2 years that we just transpired through. What have I learned about politics since I became an MP? Um, I'd have to say that I think the biggest thing I've learned is that there is a great relationship amongst different parties. That part I think is great. But there's also a challenge in that. And I wasn't expecting to see that big a challenge. I was under the assumption that we could sit down and talk to each other, and when we walked away, that was an opportunity for us to talk back and forth and come up with different ideas. Sometimes that's not there. It's not as apparent as you'd like it to be. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things and biggest challenges I've had. Working across party lines, oftentimes we've had those opportunities to do it. Most times in the House, it happens when we've been on committees or when we've been involved with events that might be taking us to different parts of the world. And those are opportunities that have happened. And when I think of it, I go back to the first Parliament I got elected to, and I was part of the Veteran Affairs Committee, and the chair at that time was the Liberal Neil Ellis. And I got to know him, and we got to talking back and forth because we both had shared values on what we can do to help our veterans and step up to do what we best for those people who've given us the privilege to have the freedom that we have. I say that so many times, that I don't have the privilege I have today if it wasn't for those people. I think the biggest challenges that we have are actually the social internet that we have today. That social media, those cell phones, are in many ways taking away the ability for you and I to talk. And so now everything gets done on that phone, whether it's through whatever source you decide to use. And I think that is one of our biggest challenges that we're going to have as we move forward, because we lose that ability to talk one-on-one. You lose that ability to see my face when I answer a question and see, oh yeah, no, that comes from his heart. That comes from what he believes in. As opposed to when I type it on my phone or on the internet, you don't see that. And I think some people, take advantage of that, and some people use it to others' disadvantage. What gives me hope for the next generation? Well, I'll tell you, my grandchildren give me hope for the next generation. I have two young grandchildren right now, 4 and 9 months, and I'm expecting to have 2 twins coming up in basically 6 months from now, from what I'm hearing. So that's good. But what their hope and their aspirations, as I see that, and I see that with our youth when I talk to them in school, and I see that even when I get down talking to the younger grades and seeing what they're learning and their ability to talk and converse. And I want to see that enhanced. I want to see them working together so much more. And that, to me, when I look back, in fact, my wife and I were just the other day talking, saying, I wonder if our parents were saying the same things we're saying today about our kids, just on how things have changed. Back in my day, as I said, I lived in Pakistan. So I was going to a boarding school here in Canada, and I'd write a letter to my parents, and it would take 2 weeks to get there via airmail. And then I'd get 2 weeks later, I'd get a letter back. And so those things now, it's 2 milliseconds, and it's right there. So those changes are important, but I expect to see, hopefully, people recognize that and learn to live with that. Believe in yourself. That's one of the things I would share that with them. And the other is to realize that the unfortunate part is that it's not going to get handed to you. You have to get out there and work in order to do it. I started learning, basically working on the railroad. I worked on the railroad to pay my way through university before I got my doctorate. That's what helped me. And what it taught me was that I wasn't cut out for that type of work. But the bottom line is, it taught me a lot of things, and the same things it taught me as I built. And it doesn't come instantaneously. It comes from hard work, and there's nothing wrong with doing a hard day's work.